All right, so going to be doing a review from a comic by my friend Chris. Thank you once again, bro. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about Superman Lost. This is by Christopher Priest with artwork by Carlo Paguland, with also Lee Weeks and Will Conrad in some issues. So yeah. So this comic is a 10-issue miniseries that I feel like should have been like a Black Label, but it's supposed to be like in canon. I haven't heard that this is supposed to be Black Label. I don't even see the DC Black Label on here, so I guess they're supposed to be in canon miniseries. And I do enjoy Christopher Priest's writing. I think I do love his Black Panther, his Black Adam stories. But there are some comics I will admit that he should not have been writing, like I've read a bit of his Justice League run from the post-52 era. Wasn't great, and he really does apply a lot of what I didn't like about his Justice League run into this comic. So yeah, but I was interested to see like what Christopher Priest would do with a full Superman comic. Like, what would he do with a full Superman storyline? So we're going to talk about that. Yeah. So let's talk about the story. The story is that it's just another day in Clark and Lois's life, and Lois has been writing a hit piece on Senator insider trading, as well as like weapons dealing. It's not like that's happening right now, because the senator is getting gifts from a Middle Eastern foreign nation, and that's totally not happening because that would be against the Constitution, right? Anyway, so while Clark and Lois are having a conversation and all that, Clark gets called away by the Justice League to deal with a threat. And sure enough, suddenly, like an hour later, he comes back, but he comes back changed. Because Bruce even arrives at last minute, but Superman gets there. Clark gets there first, and he's trying to tell Lois, like, "Hey, listen, something's up." Turns out, for Lois, it was like an hour, but for Clark, it was 20. He was been lost in space for 20 years. What happened on that mission was that the Justice League had encountered a unknown relic that the Chinese government was trying to steal, and almost cause an international incident, and the Justice League tried to move the craft and destroy it, and it instead shot Superman out into the endless void of space. Now, this is where we get interesting, because Christopher Priest tried to apply a lot of real-world science to his Justice League book, and he applies it here, basically that, like, saying space travel is time travel. So for us, it was like an hour, but for Clark, he's been lost in space for 20 years, so now he's, like, trying his best to, like, reacclimate to the real world, back to Earth, which has never been a thing in Superman comics. Now, yes, you could make the argument, yeah, Clark has been lost in, like, so far deep space that I believe Superman can get lost in space, but for like 20 years, and also how some of the reasoning why he gets left up in space is a little contrived. But yeah, while he's up in space, Clark encounters a planet that is overtaken by a dictatorship by a man only known as the Victor, and encounters a female Green Lantern who's been out in space for so long, and she's trying to, like, seduce Clark. The comic has a lot of cool ideas, don't get me wrong. It really does have, like, some really interesting ideas strewn about. But the fact of the matter is, this comic is boring as shit, and also, Christopher Priest I don't want Christopher Priest to write Superman on a daily basis, because, like, he doesn't get the idea of what Superman and Lois's relationship is, because he really writes Lois in a bad light. Essentially, like, writing her as, like, being unnecessarily angry at Clark, when she's but, like, saying, like, oh, I'm just stressed about this hit piece on the Senator, which is an underlying subplot that really gets wrapped up in the last issue with no problem. And it also, like, how it's wrapped up is very un-Superman. I don't want to say how. But yeah, the story itself has some neat ideas here and there. And that's the thing, like, there are some cool ideas, but they're all... It's like a hodgepodge. This whole comic feels like a hodgepodge of, like, everything Christopher Priest wanted to do with a Superman comic and condensed into 10 issues. And even in 10 issues, he's, like, it's too much to contain in a 10-issue miniseries. Even if you gave him 2 more, I think it would... Or, like, a maxi series, a full maxi series, I don't think it would have helped. It also ends very unsatisfying. I don't want to spoil how if you are curious about it. It ends in a very unsatisfying way. And also, the female Green Lantern, her name is Hope. Yeah, she tries to not only seduce Clark, but also steal some of his DNA from a comb, and then use it to make a clone of her for a child of hers. And yeah, that goes about as well as you think. All in all, the comic like I said, it tries to apply real-world science. And don't get me wrong, I like when comics apply science to their stories. But, like, here, like, Christopher Priest tries way too hard to, like, try to put so much effort into, like, trying to have science when I'm like, no, I've seen Superman comics like this. And also, the whole thing of, like, there are multiple times where Clark could go back, but... And this is a very Superman thing where he's like, you know, I could go back, but this planet is being outdone. This planet I keep coming back to, run by the Victor, is just in crying for help, and I need it. And it does. And I will give credit that there's a lot of cool stuff with like Clark trying to deal with like coming home, and there's a nice moment where like. Clark's not breathing. He's on the floor and not breathing, but he still thinks he's in space. Like, it's very clear Priest put a lot of effort into like the whole of being like stranded and away from society and home for so long. You apply it to and he tries to apply it to Superman. It's just the execution's not great. Also, why does he have a white and gold costume? They make no explanation for Clark's white and gold costume he has. And it also is like. It flashes on and off. Like, sometimes he has the white and gold costume, sometimes he doesn't. And I thought we'd get an explanation as to why. No, we don't. It just happens randomly. Sometimes Clark will wear the white and gold, other times Clark will wear the red and blue. And also, I'm like, okay, maybe it's maybe they'll explain it, and maybe they did, but they didn't give a great one. Because out of nowhere, Kara, when Kara shows up to try to help rehabilitate her cousin, she just gets the white and gold costume out of nowhere. I don't understand it. Maybe it's just me and I missed something, but yeah, I just didn't care. Anyway, all in all, this comic there's some cool ideas. Don't get me wrong. There are some cool ideas here and there, but this is just a comic that felt lost. So yeah. But regardless, thank you so much, Chris, for sending me this comic. And yeah, if you've read Superman Lost, let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Comment below, let me know. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in Multiverse.